Hi guys, welcome to Galactic Tycoons. So I found this game on an advert on Reddit and I've been enjoying it so far, but I find there are a lot of new players joining the game and a lot of them are asking the same questions about the game, and I've not been able to find any new player guides on YouTube, so I thought I would create one myself to help all the new players out there. First I'm going to give an overview of the game and how to play, and then I'm going to talk about some more optimal strategies and how to really get the most value out of your decisions. So first of all, this is a galaxy trading business simulator kind of game. So you've got this galaxy, there are loads and loads of different planets, and on the different planets, if I just click on one, you can see that there are going to be different resources available. So you might want to build a building on this planet that will allow you to extract the resources, but there are other options available as well. You can also buy stuff from the exchange and you can refine those things into other things. So for example, you could build a gas mine to harvest hydrogen here, or you could simply fly your ship from your planet to the exchange, buy hydrogen at the exchange, load it onto your ship, fly it back, and then refine that hydrogen into hydrogen fuel from a different building. So there's so many different options. You can build agricultural buildings, electronics, manufacturing, stuff like that. The path that you should take when you start is always choose this planet here. So this is the one that's closest to the exchange. Now the exchange, there's only one of these in the entire galaxy and is where everyone goes to trade with each other, unless you're trading privately, which I will cover later on. But essentially you want to be as close as this to possible, because it means that you can fly your ship back and forth and get resources really quickly. You also want to be able to sell your resources quickly so that you can put those funds into buying more production buildings and growing your company. I mentioned before that this planet has particular resources. You'll see these percentage details next to them. This means that this planet, if you wanted to mine hydrogen from it, it would give you hydrogen at 17% efficiency. Now that's actually not very good. And what you find is the closer the planets are to the exchange in the center of the galaxy, the lower the yield for these resources is. So if I zoom out, and let me just select a random planet that's really, really far away. So this planet, as an example, has 264% limestone. So if you're mining this, it's like really, really fast. So the problem with mining at the start of the game is that you're actually going to be way behind other players who are already on the outer rim, like big wealthy players who are mining like 20 times faster than you. So mining and resource extraction at the start of the game is actually not a very profitable thing to do, and I would actually recommend not to do that. So how do we decide which specialty to take? Because when you start the game, there are a number of different specialties you can go down, like resource extraction, manufacturing, metallurgy. How do you know which one to choose? And I'll share with you a tool that someone has come up with. So there's this amazing tool called GT Companion that was created by a player called Lek. And I mean, this is just an amazing tool. I think Lek has done a wonderful job. And first of all, the way that you actually use it is when you navigate to the tool, you have to input an API key. So click on this icon, which is your player icon, and then go to settings. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can choose to generate a new key. I would choose extended, because that means that the companion tool is going to be able to extract the most information from your account and just be able to recommend all the best choices for you. And then you add a new key. That will appear here, and then you simply copy it and paste it into the companion tool, and that will start loading up all the details for you. So you can see here, I'm in the Bases tab. It's showing me my income, my profit after my expenses. It's showing me how much all the different resources cost. So this is like super handy. But as a new player, you want to know what's going to make me the most money as I start. So let's click on profitability. What you want to have selected as well is you want to choose tier 1, because when you're starting as a new player, you can only gather tier 1 resources and create tier 1 stuff. And secondly, only recipes you have the tech for. So when you start off, you have 0 in all the different research levels. So let me just simulate what happens if I'm a new player, I have 0 and everything. The most profitable thing to do right now as a new player would be to create meat. So that is going to be in the field of agriculture, and you can see this stuff is sorted by profit per hour. So this is the most profitable, and then anyone who's making vegetables is having a hard time right now. So you can make decisions based on this. Now, you might not necessarily want to do that. Maybe you just think that in general, construction is a better idea. So you might go whatever you feel like. Like, there's no right or wrong way to play this game. And the way the market works, even though meat is the most profitable thing right now, that might not be the case tomorrow. And there's always demand for stuff like concrete because people always want to make new buildings. So maybe you have a different strategy, but this is such a helpful tool when you're starting out. So I would say use this for making money. So when you start the game, choose the closest planet to the exchange, which is Aetheria 8. That's the one that we've been looking at so far. Definitely choose that planet to start on. Now, once you've chosen that planet, you'll see this screen. So this is where you'll spend a lot of your time. So it's a general overview of your base. You can rename it. You can expand it and add more plots where you can build buildings, and it gives you an overview of the planet, how many players are on it, and so on. If we click the overview tab, this shows you what your planet is producing right now and what the inputs are for you to produce those outputs. When you start off, you will have consumable resources. So these are things like rations and drinking water for your workforce. And you will also probably want to buy the resources that you need to produce certain things. So let's go into the buildings section and explain that a little bit more. So when you first start off, you'll have a headquarters building, and all these slots will be empty because you won't have built anything yet, but you will start off with some construction materials. At the start, you definitely want to build a barracks, and the barracks basically gives you employees to use. So what I can do is, after I've clicked on this from the buildings menu, I click on this again, and it's the encyclopedia where I can view information for pretty much everything in the game, and that's actually really handy. So what this is saying is, the barracks is a tier 1 building. It requires these materials to construct, and it gives you 125 workers. Now, the specialty that I've chosen is metallurgy, and the building that is used in metallurgy is called the smelter. So I created that. And again, if I go to the encyclopedia, you'll notice the smelter needs 60 workers. And if you remember, the barracks provided 125. So basically my strategy at the start of the game was I build 1 barracks and then 2 smelters, and then 1 barracks and 2 smelters, and you just kind of continue and you plan around that. I also built a warehouse, which increases the amount of goods that you can hold on your base. So if I click on the warehouse tab, you can see the total capacity your warehouse can take and what is in it at the moment. And this is all the stuff in my warehouse, so pretty self-explanatory. If I go to my production, this shows me what my different buildings are producing. So in this case, I only have 1 type of building, but if you had more than 1, it would be listed here. So I can see I've got 18 smelters, and they're all producing the same thing. So I have 1 order. The orders is what you're telling your smelters to produce, and I'm currently just having them all produce aluminium, because that is, again, if we go back here, that is the most profitable thing that I can make from the smelter at my level. So that's a pretty good choice. I can add orders as well. So if, for example, I wanted to add glass, here I'm adding an order, produce 1 glass. I want to produce a lot more than that. I'll just say infinite. So it will continue to produce glass as long as I have the resources. But you'll see here, it's highlighted in orange. I don't have enough limestone. I don't have enough silica to start this. So that's not going to actually produce any glass because I lack the inputs. If I did have the inputs, it would basically cycle through these 2. So the first smelter to finish would look at order 1, the next would go to order 2, and it would go back and forth. So if you have 2 orders like this, it would approximately be doing 50-50. So that's how to use the order screen. I can also cancel if I just want to focus on aluminium again. At the top right of my buildings, you can see the level of the building. So I've upgraded this barracks from level 1 up to level 8. And if I want to upgrade it further, you can see it costs this number of construction materials. And the ones that are in orange here, I don't have enough of those materials. So I can use the add to wish list button to add all these materials to my wish list. And then I would have to buy them and then bring them to base 1. Once they're in the base 1 warehouse, I would then be able to upgrade. I can also completely get rid of the building if I wanted to, and you'd hit this scrap button and it would give you these resources back. But you never get the amount back that you spent on the building to begin with, so you can't really just easily move from planet to planet like that without some cost. So with regards to production buildings like the smelter, you will actually see that there's a condition here. And that means that your building slowly decays over time as it gets used. So if your building was producing 24 hours a day, then in theory, your building's condition would decay by, I believe it's 2.5% per day. After your building's condition falls below 80%, speed will begin to decline. So always repair your buildings once they get to 80% and don't let them get below that. You might be looking at this and thinking, well, how do I know which ones need to be repaired? Well, an easy way is to go to the base tab and then repair, and you can see all of your individual levels of your buildings. So I can click on one and then repair that one and so on. You'll notice as well there's a workforce tab. So from the barracks, my barracks are providing housing for this many people, but I have this many jobs available in my smelters. So it means that I've got 5 jobs that are not filled by workers. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't really matter. And you can see here all the resources that are being consumed by the workers themselves. And their satisfaction is currently 100%. So basically, you always want to have these consumable resources topped up. You can see how much I've got in reserve. So they'll run out of rations in 1 day in 3 hours. But you never want to run out of any of these because it impacts the satisfaction score. And lower satisfaction means lower productivity. So again, if I go back to the production tab, you'll see my productivity. It comes from different things I've researched, but the workforce satisfaction is one of those factors. So you want that to be maxed out. And the consumables are also quite cheap to buy. The next tab I wanted to highlight is the resupply tab. And this is actually super handy because you probably want to know how many resources to buy to last me a day or 12 hours or whatever. So you can see that here, and you can add all of those ingredients to the wish list. So basically, if I want 1 day of supplies for my whole base, that would cost me this much. If I click the add to wish list button, and then I view the wish list, I can see, oh, I need to buy this stuff. Now, unfortunately, so we're in the exchange right now. Unfortunately, we're not able to actually buy all the stuff in the exchange at one time. That means that we're going to have to buy them individually. So I simply click on this. It opens up the buy tab. I can click buy, and I can do that for each resource. So that's how to buy stuff that you need for your base. Let's talk about buying and selling on the exchange. So here, you'll notice I have a ship and it's currently at the exchange station. It has this glass on board. Now I could unload just the glass and choose a specific amount of it, but I want to take all of it so I can use this button, which would unload everything, even if there were other materials. Now, because it's here, I have this option to sell. So I'm going to click the sell button, and you'll notice that down here, it's automatically filled in that quantity, and it's auto-filled a price as well. Now, normally it will auto-fill a price that's just lower than the most recent offer. So this particular material has increments of $1. So when you go to buy something from the exchange, normally you'll get the thing that's on the top, and that will be the cheapest. You might want to undercut, so the thing that you're selling sells faster. So I'll do that just now. And now that's our offer in. I can cancel it if I want to, but I'm going to leave that there, and hopefully it should sell in the next 10 minutes or so. Now you can see I've got a bunch of stuff that I bought for one of my ships, and I would like to send this to one of my bases, because you'll see here at my 8th base, there's like a little red symbol, and I've only got 2.7 hours of consumables left. So that means that I really need to resupply, and you'll see I'm running out of this stuff. I've already bought the supplies, they're at the exchange, so what I'm going to do is just load up my ship with them. I don't want to put the limestone in or the hydrogen or the other stuff. I just want to do the consumables, so I'm going to do those one by one, and you can see they're moving from the exchange station to the ship. So I realise I still have more room on this ship, so I could actually bring some stuff that I need. So what I'm going to do is showcase how you actually buy stuff. So I want to buy, I think, 1,000 limestone, and that's going to buy 1,000 for 26.50 from this person. So we can see I've just bought that. It's entered my warehouse and been deducted from the quantity that's on sale from this person. And then I think I want to buy 2,000 silica. So these are the ingredients that are used to produce glass. And again, you can choose like a custom amount, but I'm just going to do the max, and then same here. So I'm not quite able to fit all the silica on the ship, but now I click on the ship and I will send it to Aetheria. Now, when you send your ships, you can choose an efficiency versus power. So 100% efficiency means you use the least fuel, but it's always the slowest. And then if you choose maximum power, you're going to use a lot of fuel, but you're going to get there fastest. So, it really depends. I usually have it somewhere around here, a sort of middle ground, because I don't want to burn too much fuel since it costs money to buy. I can also refuel, and I can also repair. So ships and buildings have a condition, and if your ships or buildings fall to 80%, you should always repair them, because below 80%, the performance starts to degrade. Your ships will get slower, your production buildings will produce more slowly, but between 100 and 80%, there's no degradation of performance. So you really don't need to repair buildings or ships unless they get to 80. So I'm going to start the flight. There's an option to do an express flight as well. That would use stars. And I don't want to use my stars for that. It's just not a very good use of stars, since there are more important things to do with them. And we'll talk about the stars later on, but I'm fine with it taking an hour. There's also the option to unload on arrival. I'm going to use that as well. So I use my stars to buy the ability to unload on arrival. So for each of your ships, they don't normally unload on arrival unless you buy the option. So I'll start that flight. If I click on another ship, you'll see here, auto unload is not installed. You can install it in the modify ship window. So the way we modify a ship is, first of all, your ship has to be at the exchange, and it will warn you. You can only modify this at the exchange station. One of the most important things that you'll want to do when you're starting out is to upgrade the FDL type. So you start off with basic, but really you want to get to the superior short range. Now, short range is great because my planet is close to the exchange. I don't really want to go to the outer rim quite yet. I don't think I'm advanced enough, so I'm perfectly happy to go with this. Then the cargo bay size. So you will find that very quickly you will be unable to supply your company bases with the small cargo bays that your ship has. So you will eventually have to upgrade those over time. And let's say that I upgraded this to 5,000. What you would see down here is all the construction cost of it. So sadly, it doesn't actually show the dollar value, but if I add that to my wish list, I close this screen and then I go to my wish list. So that would cost that much money. So that's quite a lot. I don't have that much, so I can't do that upgrade right now. So I'm just going to remove that stuff from my wish list. But that's an illustration of how to buy, how to sell, how to load stuff on your ship, and how to send your ships around. So once they reach the base, you can let me click on base 1. Okay, base 1, I've got a ship at base 1. Once they reach the base, you can unload stuff. So for example, I'm going to unload all this at the same time, and that stuff is all moved from my ship into my warehouse. And then there's some stuff in my warehouse that I produced, glass, which I want to take back to the exchange. So I'll do that now, start the flight, and as I say, I don't have the option to auto unload, so I can't tick that, but I'll start the flight, and then once my ship arrives at the exchange, then I'll be able to sell the goods, and it just goes back and forth like that. So that's how to use the exchange. There's also this statistics graph that you can get for any of the different resources. And so You might find that interesting if you're into like trading and investment and stuff. It just kind of shows you the average price over time, and it is interesting to look at how much has been produced throughout the galaxy and how much is used. So for this drinking water, you can see more of it is produced than is used. Could be interesting for those of you into economics. Now, there's also this concept of contracts in the exchange where you directly trade with people. So what you'll see here is a bunch of contracts I've already made with people. And the idea is that a contract is like an agreement that when certain conditions are fulfilled, you can fulfill the contract, which basically carries out the trade. So what I can do, for example, is to say, I'll just pick a random player. So I'm offering to buy something from this person. I'm actually going to change the exchange station and say I want to exchange at my planet. I want to buy limestone, and I want to buy, say, I want to buy 1,000 at 30 each. And then do this for 10 days. Max fulfills, say we do 5 times a day. So what this means is I create this contract, the other player sees a message requesting that this contract be dealt with, and then they have the chance to accept or deny. If they accept the contract, it will appear in my active contracts, and that means it can then be fulfilled whenever these conditions are met. So you can make a contract without currently fulfilling those conditions. So for example, let's look at some of the existing contracts. I've got a contract to sell 1,000 glass to this player once per day. So at the moment, you can see this little checkbox is not ticked. I don't have the glass to supply, and they don't have the money to buy it anyway. If they did, then I would have the fulfill button available. So you can see none of my contracts are actually fulfillable at the moment. This one, the person does have the money, I have the glass, but you'll see 1 out of 1 fulfilled. That means they've used their quota according to that contract. So I could, if I wanted to sell more to this person, I could cancel this contract and make a bigger one for, say, 2 deliveries per day, or I could just copy this contract and send another identical one. So I don't know what the limit is to the number of contracts, but this is actually really, really useful for new players. And the reason for that is because if you're on the same planet as the person with the contract, it will actually deliver straight to your warehouse. So the moment I click this button, I receive the cash and they receive the glass in their warehouse. And that means that I don't have to physically ship anything. And that's a huge time save. So certainly when you're new, I would highly recommend use as many contracts as you can where you're selling and buying directly from your planet. That is just an excellent way to avoid shipping back and forth. Let me talk about missions next. So every so often you'll get a new mission. You'll get 3 options of missions to choose from. Once you choose it, it will appear here. These missions never expire, and you get some reward for completing some sort of task. So here, if I do some research, I get 1 piece of research, and then the reward will be 16,000 cash. In this one, I have to buy the copper or just buy it on the exchange, and then I have to take it to this planet. And if I click on this, it's actually quite far away. So I've not done that yet. I've not gotten around to it. But if I do it, it gives me 450 prestige. And prestige is what you need to get perks, which is kind of like a skill level up, and I'll show you that in a moment. You also have achievements, which will be completed throughout the course of the game, just as you naturally progress. So like when you build or upgrade buildings and stuff like that. So this is sometimes worth looking at if you're like really close to getting an achievement and you just need to do a small, simple task to get that $10,000, then as a new player, it can be very much worth it to do that. And I'd say missions as well as a new player, a really good way to get that cash to build more production buildings and boost your city's output early on. So definitely pay attention to those, and you get them quite quickly at the start of the game because of the starter bonus, which I'll also touch on. But I mentioned the prestige, so if I go over here and I click on the perks tab, you'll get 1 perk every time you reach a new level of perk prestige, I guess you could call it. So you can see here my current prestige and the level of prestige I need to get to the next perk. And you invest your perks in certain things. But I would probably always recommend going for workflow optimization because you produce stuff faster. So I don't think you can really go wrong with this. And I'd say the most effective thing to aim for at the start is definitely strict supervision, because a 25% production speed is a huge bonus as a starting player. Now, I mentioned that there's like a starting bonus. So what you see here, 1.5 times speed bonus to production ships in research. So this is super handy. Now you start with 5 times production. I think that's for the first 4 hours, and then it slowly starts to taper off. So I'm currently at 1.5, and as you see, it'll be removed in 4 days. But it's really important to get a great start to the game. So speaking of getting a good start to the game, I would highly recommend asking questions in the comms. So here you have there's a help chat room. So just ask in there if you've got questions. People are generally really helpful. They want to see new players succeed, and it's a great way to find partners to trade with. There will also be like a chat room for your particular planet. So people will be saying, sell me this, or I want to buy that. And it's a great place for you to get supplies that you need without having to use the exchange. Finally, there's the guild. So I highly recommend joining a guild as soon as possible. The reason for that is guilds will have these buildings that offer bonuses to their members. So for example, the flight center increases flight speed by 21%. That's actually such a useful mechanic because you're often going to be shipping resources to and from your planet. So 21% actually is a huge boost and is well worth it. Then you get a bigger exchange warehouse. That's not so important for new players because you're not going to be able to fill up the warehouse when you're starting, but the daily prestige is really good. So this arcade generates prestige and will just give you some of that every day. So the prestige helps you get perks. So again, that's really good. So join a guild as soon as you can. I would recommend at the start, get comfortable with the game. And once you feel like you understand how to play, then restart, click on the icon, go to settings, and then if we scroll to the bottom, reset company. So you're starting afresh. The reason I would recommend that is because when you've played for a little bit, you've got a bit of experience, you know how to do contracts and stuff. You're going to have that knowledge, and even if you miss out on like a few days or a week of progress, if you restart and you do things optimally, you're going to catch up so much more quickly, and that's going to pay dividends in the future. It's very much worth it to take that initial period to just learn the game and then start afresh with a reset and hit the ground running. Finally, I think I need to mention stars. So stars are used to unlock more ships. That's the only way that you can unlock more ships. You start with 2. You're going to absolutely need to have more. Otherwise, you're creating headaches for yourself when you get more bases and stuff. So you automatically get 10 stars every day. If you donate using the starter pack, which I think is about $5, then that is up to 20 per day. And then you also get a one-off bundle of 300. So yeah, I would highly recommend getting that and also support the devs. So that's been Galactic Tycoons. I will also add a link in the description to the GD companion tool, and I'll also add a link so that you can sign up using a referral code which gives me stars if you sign up. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys, and please let me know your top tips and advice in the comments.